Welcome to Clean Plates, where every bite tells a story. I'm Brian Romaine, joining you on a culinary journey to understand the whys behind our diets and desires. Welcome to Clean Plates, where every bite tells a story. I'm Brian Romaine, joining you on a culinary journey to understand the whys behind our diets and desires. Joining me today is Laurence Isaac, the founder of Sinai Gourmet Sauces. Laurence, how are you doing today? I hope I pronounced everything correctly.
You did, Brian. You did. I'm good. Can't complain. Yourself?
Oh, it's good. It's getting hot in Colorado, but that's okay. I'm gonna take my road cycling bike out on a ride today, and it's very enjoyable because the air out here is so dry that even when it's hot, you can still cool off in the shade. You can drink plenty of water. But where I'm from in Kansas, over one state over, is very humid. So the air there would be completely different.
Yeah, well, I'm in Montreal, so we're an island. So I know all about humidity. It is crazy humid. Yesterday it was 30, 35 Celsius, which is I don't know what that is. Must be close to like 90 something in the Fahrenheit, but humidity was like 4,000%. It's basically a sauna outside, so it was. It does impact you when you're riding.
Oh, absolutely. Even if you ride cycle, if you ride motorbike, I mean, all of that's going to be an effect of what you wear, how you're going to execute everything. So I can only imagine. Plus, I've only been to Toronto and I was there when I was like a teenager. So I can't imagine that being an island, Montreal is way different.
Yeah, well, Toronto's actually by the water too because it's right on the lake, so it
Okay.
gets pretty, and it's a concrete jungle, so the air doesn't move really well, so it gets pretty humid there and wet and humid. But yeah, I think right now I think maybe Colorado's we're like under a heat dome or something. I think that's what they call it, where like the air, it's a hot pocket of air that just stays in one spot, and the temperature just starts climbing and. I know there's one affecting the U.S. or something. Was I reading in Phoenix? It's like one. It's been over 100 for the past 3 weeks or something insane like that. But yeah, the heat dome. You feel it.
Oh, yeah. Arizona gets hot. I used to work for a wooden sunglasses company, and I had a customer call me one day and told me that it was so hot that their sunglasses fell apart. Like the wood just
Yeah.
split when they were sweating into them. But I get that. Speaking of islands, your company, I believe, is named after a peninsula in Egypt. That is the Sinai Peninsula, correct?
That is right. That is right. It's a ginormous triangular piece of land. Yeah, and it's a desert. It's where, well, for most people, will recognize the word Sinai from Mount Sinai, where Moses walked up and got the Ten Commandments. So yeah, it's a big, hot, beautiful part of the world. And yeah, actually, the company's named Sinai Gourmet because I went there for and spent a summer there, and it was just such a beautiful, beautiful place to be. The people are really interesting. There's a lot of Bedouins that are there, which are basically people that have learned to live, survive, and cook and live their whole life in the desert. And yeah, and for some reason they're always dressed all in black. I figured white would be better, but they tend to like black. So yeah, it's a nice place in the world. It's very interesting. The food is delicious, and like I said, the people are nice. I just had a great experience. So when I started making sauces and food and condiments, it made just it harkened back to that time, and the name just stuck out.
No, that's really cool. Tell me more about the food in Egypt.
Well, it'll be your Middle Eastern food. So like my strongest memories towards food in Egypt is my grandmother cooking. My grandmother is Egyptian, um, even the and she's just like just everything was very rich. I just remember like even she made like a cucumber tomato salad, and somehow it was the best salad I ever tasted in my life every time she made it. And but lots of rice, and well, a lot of the stuff you'll think about like hummus and baba ganoush and pita bread, falafel. my grandfather owned a pastry shop in Egypt, so we used to go get the kanafas and the and all that stuff, and all these beautiful desserts. And he would have ice cream in the summer, so I'd go there and have ice cream. I remember the first time, a couple times, I was a little bit weirded out because they had um, not cow ice cream, but like goat milk ice cream or camel milk ice cream. So it was, but it was good. It was just a very different flavor profile, obviously. And he used to love to just test and cook or get his, I guess, his staff in the day, back in the day, to cook all kinds of things. I remember one time I must have been like 6, and for some reason I wanted a Black Forest cake. It was the one that I was so popular for me, and then he had to try to explain in Arabic, in Egyptian, to the staff what it is Black Forest cake. And they didn't have Google back then. Like I'm pre-internet when I was a kid, so or it was unaffordable, I should say, when I was a kid to have it. So they had to like try to figure out. I don't know how they did it. They ended up making phone calls, and somehow they made this delicious Black Forest cake, and it was really nice and sort of like an Egyptian twist on Black Forest cake. Yeah, so I've,
That's
I've
really
always loved food.
that's cool. No, of course. I love the fond memories of it. I mean, my podcast is named Clean Plates because as a kid my mom had the Clean Plate Award, as a motivation for us to finish our food. And, they were very key on portions and trying to give us enough food for a sustainable day. So
Yeah,
whenever
yeah.
we showed my mom a clean plate, she'd be like, "Yeah, Clean Plate Award." And so
And what was it?
it's
What was it? What was the
it was
award?
well, it was
Is it a
just it's
verbal
a
award? A
yeah. I
verbal
mean,
award?
just like a in the cloud award. It was nothing. It was
Yeah, yeah,
more
yeah, I gotcha.
just
I
a good
gotcha.
pat on the back of it'd be hilarious if she had a trophy system, but
That would be absolutely hilarious. Yeah.
yeah, I'm the youngest of three, so my siblings would be just we'd probably be going American Gladiator style on it with the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
big
Fighting.
Q-tips
Because
on.
then it would eventually be the first one to finish his plate. Then you guys would all have like digestive issues from eating too fast or God knows what. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You gotta motivate your kids without getting chaos, because chaos is really quick to come with children.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and in the '90s versus nowadays, it was a little bit different as opposed to we didn't really have, at least in my neighborhood, a lot of like issues with childhood obesity. Whereas nowadays, you have that kind of like tendency where you hear stories of being like, well, don't force your kid to finish all. If they're full, they're full. If that whole thing. But for us, it was always, we were good eaters. We were always hungry. We were always devouring food in a positive way in my house. So showing my parents at the end that we had a clean plate, they're always like fist bump, like
Yeah,
clean plate
yeah, yeah,
award.
absolutely. Absolutely. I like it.
But
Good story.
yeah, absolutely. Now with your company, how did you get started initially? What were some of the first things that like really sparked your inspiration to start a sauce company or a
Um,
condiment
it's
company?
it's a little bit of a ridiculous story, but I guess about 15 years ago or something, I went to one of our local steakhouse chains. Sort of like in the US, you have Longhorns. In Canada, we have something called the Keg. They actually have locations in the US. So they make a pretty good steak. They're like a mid tier, not like super high end and not like entry level, sort of a mid tier restaurant. So it's really high quality food. And they're pretty much like one of the institutions in Canada. Anyways, I went in, I ordered a beautiful, I think it was a ribeye or something, ribeye plate with all the works on it. And I like to eat spicy. Like I like a little heat and I like a little punch in my food. So I asked for hot
Hmm.
sauce. Of course, like every restaurant in the entire universe, they brought me Tabasco. And without thinking about it, I just put Tabasco all over my like $40 steak. And I was just like, it was such a, like, I couldn't complain to the restaurant because it was my own doing, but the flavors were just, all I could taste was the vinegar of the Tabasco, and the saltiness and the flavor of the steak was totally compromised, for lack of a better word. And so I remember thinking, fuck, man, shit. there's got to be a solution that I can put a hot sauce on a beautiful ingredient like this steak and not like add heat to it without ruining it. And I ended up looking for, at that point, it clicked that the vinegar was the issue. So I ended up looking for vinegar-free hot sauces. We have a couple stores here where like they have those towering walls of hot sauces. You know what I mean? Like it's like a 12 by 20-foot wall of hot sauces, just one right next to each other. And I went there and I looked through all of them. I asked them, "Do you have any vinegar-free hot sauces? Any fresh-tasting hot sauces?" And they're like, "No, nobody makes that." Um, and so I just started to mess around with it, and it took me like 2 years to figure out how to make it. I had pots. I remember, like, I was in my first apartment making bottles of habanero, what later became habanero original, but like a habanero hot sauce, and I had it in glass jars, all chopped up, ready. And I was trying to like figure out the balance, and then I had to go to work. So I left everything on the counter, sealed and closed. I thought it'd be fine. And I think I went to work, but then it was a hot summer day like this. It might have been one of those 35 Celsius days, and I didn't have air conditioning in the apartment, obviously. And I left, and then being like a younger, less reasonable guy, I probably went out and partied and came back the next day instead of coming back right after work. So
Right, right,
I
right.
might have been gone. I might have been gone 24 hours or
Just a
something.
little
Like
bit, yeah.
it's possible. It's highly likely. Anyways, when I came back, the pots had blown
Allegedly,
up.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The pot had blown. The little jars had blown up, and I
Oh,
remember knowing as soon as
because
I
the
walked
like
in,
some sort of
it had
fermentation,
just
or
it was so hot it had started fermenting really quick. Or I had done something wrong. So maybe
sure.
I'd put like I don't know, it was a
Oh my
combination of
god.
like it was basically whatever the perfect storm is, but the pops had popped up, and I remember because I opened the door to the apartment building, and I just started coughing, and like right as you walked in from the front entrance, you started smelling this like smell,
Oh my
and
god.
and then by the time I opened my actual apartment door, it was like toxic. It was so hot.
Get
Like
out.
hot, I mean like hot, like a spicy, the air. And I remember just opening, the kitchen was a mess. It was like a huge mess, but enough of a mess that it was a mess. And I
Yeah,
opened
it's a
all the
memory.
windows and yeah. And so, yeah, so it took me about 2 years to figure out how to make vinegar-free hot sauces. And that's sort of like our main line of product. Our first line is all vinegar-free hot sauces. So we use, it's basically like a balance of lime juice and our manufacturing process, like a pretty, I always joke around that like when we make sauces, it's like Breaking Bad because you can't. There can be no contaminants in like vinegar gives you a buffer. It's like a preservative, basically.
Of
Vinegar. It's like an
course.
alcohol, right? So it's a disinfectant. So bacteria doesn't like it. Whereas, so we have, so it gives you a little bit of a buffer if something goes wrong. But with our sauces, like there's no buffer. There's no buffer. Even the like bacteria in the air when we're filling the bottles, if there's too much, if it doesn't fill just right, it can cause issues, and then we lose batches. So it's quite the fun. But circle around, and now when I have a ribeye, I put some jalapeno maple on it, and it's the most perfect flavor profile out there. So
I love how full circle the experience is from having something that didn't exist and something that was minimal availability, and you just made it yourself, and now you get to have a ribeye that has something proper on it that's not gonna be a faux pas to anybody socially. It's honestly probably going to turn a lot of people on to a new way to enjoy a ribeye. And yeah, I totally give you flowers for that because I love people who create products that don't exist out of an experience of something of their own.
yeah, well, just to finish off how full circle, how funny the world can be sometimes. The keg is actually one of my customers now, and they buy that jalapeno maple, and it's in some of their key recipes. Like you'll never know because they use it in the kitchen.
Of
But
course,
yeah. So I ended up, but now
that's
now I can go back to the keg and have a steak and ask for hot sauce, and they'll bring me our jalapeno maple, and I can enjoy my the steak the way it was meant to be the first time. So problem
God, that's
solved, I guess.
yeah, that's a full problem solved. I'll call that.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Did you face any like challenges besides the kitchen incident that kind of came in those 2 years leading up to all the other, for manufacturing purposes and whatnot? Did you face any other challenges in that regard?
But scaling up is really, really hard. Scaling up is hard. It's not like our sauce is not like the jalapeno habanero, our original line of sauces, so jalapeno
Mhm.
maple, maple, habanero original, all the fresh vinegar-free hot sauce, they're very fussy and they're hard to scale up. Yeah, I remember at one point during the pandemic, we had issues with access and supplies and some of that. We had to try to outsource a company to manufacture for one batch because I couldn't. It was just a shit. Like in the beginning of the pandemic was such a shit show for everybody, but for us as well. So we hired a company to help us make one batch of sauce for one of our biggest customers because I didn't want to like tell them we can't supply. And they did the best they could, and I was there in person. They did the best they could with the equipment that they had, and it was a total like I ended up having to throw out the entire batch. It was total like it didn't work. Like it's a very we're constantly learning and like we're constantly coming up with new products, but every new product has its own series of issues, problems, challenges, things to overcome. It's rare that you go from like let's say our test kitchen and you do a product and on paper it should be perfect to the factory. It's rare that those come together easily. It's often just like 50 steps and 50 learning lessons. And yeah, we like, for example, we make a caramel for an ice cream manufacturer. And we tried so many, like the first, we had an approved sample that we sent to them. And they approved the sample, then we shipped them the first order of the sample, and then they figured out that the way we had structured it on the sample didn't work at scale in one of their large machines. So then we had to rejig the entire recipe, and it's so sometimes it can be. There's always challenges, always challenges.
This podcast is brought to you by Evo Hemp. Calling all health enthusiasts, are you looking for a natural way to boost your wellness routine? Meet Evo Hemp, the game changer in the world of health and nutrition. Evo Hemp brings you a range of delicious hemp-based products that are as nutritious as they are tasty. From protein bars and snacks to hemp hearts and oils, they have everything you need to nourish your body and support your active lifestyle. Why hemp, you ask? Hemp is a powerhouse of nutrition packed with essential fatty acids, protein, and fiber. It's the perfect addition to your diet, whether you're a fitness fanatic, a busy professional, or just someone who wants to eat better. And there's something special about Evo Hemp. They partner directly with American farmers, ensuring that their products are sustainably grown and of the highest quality. When you choose Evo Hemp, you're not just supporting your health, you're supporting local farmers and sustainable agriculture. Are you ready to elevate your wellness game? Visit evohemp.com and use the promo code PLATES20 to get 20% off your purchase. That's evohemp.com to use the code PLATES20 at checkout for 20% off today. Discover the benefits of hemp and feel the difference with Evo Hemp. I think that just shows your character. That shows your drive to want to continue to be successful. I always tell people that if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail forward because, that you can always go back to the drawing board and make something different or take something out of the equation or add something in that needs to. So I admire your tenacity and the way that you have been able to overcome these challenges because it does seem like things are now at least planing towards a lot of success. I mean, you guys have your vinegar-free hot sauces, and to my knowledge, you guys now are in the midst of making other barbecue sauces. You make ketchup, so that's pretty rad.
Yeah, we've had a hot sauce on hot ones. We have a regular traditional Louisiana style hot sauce. We have barbecue sauces. We have a line of maple syrups. We have all kinds of stuff. Our rule as a company is just it's got to be delicious, clean label, and as healthy as possible within that category. So that's where it gets tricky. Like, 'cause, some things like barbecue sauces are sweet. Some people told me like, can you make a can you make a sugar-free barbecue sauce? I'm like, I could, but it's not. That's really not what barbecue sauces are. And I'm not using what's that stuff? That stevia? Is it stevia?
Yes. That's a, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
or
We
stevia? How do you pronounce
yep,
that?
yeah,
Stevia,
that's what
stevia.
yeah, we were talking about that on the phone the other day when we were talking, yeah. Stevia is a plant sugar extract that is just in my opinion, it's it's okay, it's just not great. You know,
Yeah,
if
I know
anything,
for
monk fruit is probably a little better.
yeah, yeah, and well, monk fruit that has no sugar but sweetness. See, I'm
Monk
learning.
fruit, yeah, it's used as as a sweetener.
Yeah, because I think the advantage of stevia is that it actually contains no sugar, but it's sweet.
Right, right. Yeah, I just don't like the
That's what.
taste of I just don't like
That's
the
why
taste
they.
of stevia.
I think for a while it was popular, and people were using it in their coffees in the morning. And then I think I remember at some point it made the news that it was a carcinogen or possible carcinogen, and then people stopped using it. And like
Of course.
food is a difficult. Food is a difficult universe, especially with our southern neighbors. Our southern neighbors are very, 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 very fad focused on foods. You guys are some marketing geniuses is all I have to say. I remember a couple of years, was it during the pandemic where I went to the grocery store and celery was $9.99? I'm like, what the fuck? Why is celery $9.99? It's because some guy talked to a ghost and celery juice was the best thing since sliced bread.
You're not wrong. I mean, I am astonished sometimes at my own country of just like
Yeah,
how we hook people in, how labels are very misleading, and how you have to read all of the ingredients of everything to make sure
yeah.
that the front matches the back. That is one thing that I think other countries could take, or let me rephrase that. The US could take notes from other countries as
Yeah.
far
Well,
as
yeah.
the processed foods, the availability of, eliminating different things that are in processed foods that make them so harmful. So,
It's tough because, like I said, I mean, you guys, Americans are just like probably the best in the world at marketing and taking anything that kind of works and just putting it out there in large, large, large numbers. Nobody does it like you guys. But then the reality is, as soon as there's money to be made, and I think we were talking about a little bit on our phone call. As soon as there's money to be made, the industry changes drastically. And so I remember going to Natural Product Expo West in California with my mother when I was a kid, and it was a bunch of hippies there holding like little booths, and there were some big successful companies, but it was still like run by hippies, and everything was sort of like, hey man, what's up, hey, come try my stuff. Everything was like, it was really chill. And the products were clean and clean label, and organic meant organic, and it was super simple and like had terrible shelf lives. Most of, like, it was normal food shelf lives. And then about 5 years ago I went back to Expo West as an adult, and the industry, because organic food became so popular, it's so profitable for so many businesses that a lot of people started pouring money into it, and then shelf life, and distribution became important, and the ingredient list on things changed completely. The feelings of the show changed completely. The hippies were gone, and they were replaced by slick salesmen and guys in suits, and guys and girls in suits. I shouldn't say just guys, but like, there's a different world, man. It is a different world. That's where it is right now.
yeah, You nailed it. You touched upon a very important, subject there as far as just the transition that we've gone through in food and how that's affected society as a whole
Yeah,
because we're we've just lost all relationship with our food. There's a lot of food that I see that should just be the ingredients that make it, but there's a list of 65
yeah,
things on there and you're like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's a bagel. Like why
Yeah.
how does a bagel that is a 3 to 4 ingredient item contain all of this? And
Well,
it's sad.
there's a chemical to make the bagel stay white. The dough. There's a chemical in there to keep the crust hard. There's a chemical in there to keep it spongy. There's a chemical in there to make it have a longer shelf life. Then there's some natural flavors to make sure it tastes like a bagel. And then there's, let's say, onion powder on the top. Well, that can't be made with onions because that'd be ridiculous. So there has to be some other stuff that's, so it's, but to get back to what you were saying earlier, like, and then you have, I mean, like having childhood obesity comes down to two things: what you eat, and if you're outside playing often enough. If you're not going outside running around and you're eating stuff which is like hyper boosted with calories. I mean, some of this food is just super. It's basically like, there's that trendy term in the food industry of superfood, which is supposed to be food. They use it in the sense that it's food that is supposed to cure all your ailments. But the reality is, like, half the stuff you buy prepackaged, pre-made food, highly processed food is superfood just because its caloric bang is so high. It's not some stuff our body is used to. Like, we're designed over millions of years to basically be starving half of our time. And now one little, like, pre-wrapped sandwich or whatever has like an entire day's worth of calories in one bite. So it's pretty screwed up, man. It's interesting to transition and clean plates, as you said. It's what's on your plate really matters.
I mean, that's kind of the double entendre of the title as well, just because I grew up eating whole food and playing outside. So that kind of rang a bell when you said that because it's like, I didn't even think about that. Where like we just ate regular whole food and then, you know, not really left to
Burn calories
devices.
for
8 hours. Yeah, we
Burn
weren't really
calories for
left.
8 hours straight.
Of
Yeah,
course, yeah, we weren't left to devices because uh, we didn't really have them like they do today as far as the quantity and the high end technology. I mean, yeah, we had video games and computer stuff and TV, but like, I think it was also because all of my friends growing up in my neighborhood also wanted to play outside, also wanted to ride our bikes, also wanted to go play games and kickball and run around the neighborhood and just be out because it means you were away from your parents. It was
yeah,
freedom.
absolutely.
It was
And for
freedom to,
them, and for the parents, they were away from their kids,
oh
so
yeah,
they had,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And
There's a reason that,
I would
yeah,
punch out at like after breakfast, and I would punch in at supper time, and
yeah,
somewhere in between, we managed to go to somebody's house to find food. Like we didn't have $1 on us, so we'd stop by
uh huh.
Sean's house or Andrew's house or Jess's house, raid the fridge. There's like 8 people raiding the fridge, and then to the next house the next time. It was just I don't know. I've got young kids. We'll see what they end up doing. I know they're outside all the time, but we don't let them run loose like I would have as a kid. Um,
Yeah, latchkey kids. But
yeah,
yeah, it's interesting just because growing up, I mean, you're right. I mean, we were always running from house to house to house to have a meal or to get a snack or whatever. And yeah, there was no concern about anything other than just go, 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 where there's
exactly.
just so much sitting and laying around and not moving in the sunlight for a lot of these kids these days. So it's pretty wild.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So that's why, like for us, our philosophy, Sinai Gourmet is basically like the deep, deep part of the philosophy of the company is to make like we're a condiment company, but to make condiments that I would feed my own family, and I do. Like I have no qualms of using any of our barbecue sauces and throwing them on anything that I cook for the kids. My kids eat our ketchup. It's the Sinai Gourmet ketchup is their favorite ketchup. They go to town on it, and I know. Listen, I know one they like it, and two it's half the sugar, half the sodium of Heinz and the other big brands, and no chemicals, no artificial ingredients. And we don't put liquid sugar. We put like real brown sugar, sugar cane brown sugar. So I know sugar is sugar, but we still have half of it. So yeah, it's basically like I want our customers to come in and they feel like they're part of the Sinai Gourmet family and they're treated. They come to us and they can rely on the fact that we are going to do our very best to make it as healthy as possible. And yeah, so like even like so I know a lady the other day wrote to us on Instagram and the message was passed on to me. She's like, why do you even have sugar in your ketchup? I'm like, well, ketchup is a sweet condiment in North America, at least. I don't know what it is in the other parts of the world, but here ketchup is sweet. Tomatoes, sugar, and vinegar, and it's a sweet condiment. So if you don't want sweetness, there's other condiments out there, but ketchup is ketchup. Barbecue sauce is barbecue sauce. So some things are sweet, some things have high sugar, some things, but we just try to get it as low as possible or as healthy as possible within that category.
I like that you wear everything right on your sleeve because you guys aren't trying to be something else. You're not anti barbecue sauce. You're not anti ketchup. You're actually just anti. What I remember we were talking about on the phone. In Canada, it's liquid sugar. In the States, it's high fructose corn syrup. And so, same thing, same difference. And I think it's honorable that you guys make something that brings people back to a kind of home base because you're still getting barbecue sauce, you're still getting ketchup. The Kansas City style barbecue sauce that you sent me, I can't get enough of over chicken thighs and whatnot. And it reminds me of a place called Jack Stacks in Kansas City. And it's awesome because it's a homage, but it's also not loaded with high fructose corn syrup or other additives, thinning agents or thickening, et cetera, et cetera. And it just brings me back to that place in my childhood, much like I can imagine people when they have something that requires ketchup as a condiment, like a burger or fries or something, et cetera, et cetera. It's nice because you guys are just doing the right thing in the right direction as opposed to just recreating what's already out there. And I think that's awesome because that puts you apart from a lot of people. And it's what really sets the bar for you is that you have half the sodium, you have half the sugar in your ketchup, but you have no qualms with your kids just mowing it down because it's like, well, metabolically, they're not getting something that has all of those additives in it. So like go on it. Go to town.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, the way I see it is, I like to make condiments the way you would make it at home if you were making it for yourself. Like you wouldn't put citric acid, you wouldn't put xanthan gum, you wouldn't put liquid sugar, you wouldn't put sodium benzoate or whatever other additives are there if you were
Yeah.
making it at home. Like you just wouldn't. You would make it, your grandmother's recipe didn't include any of those things, unless maybe she was a chemist and like, that was her
Yeah.
bag. But so we like to make sauces the way you would make it for yourself. It's just we make it for you and we try to do it consistently and as delicious as possible. And like the good part about it is I feel confident giving it to my kids, like morally. The disadvantage, like for a company, is it's much more expensive to make products that way. And the market can only bear a certain price premium on products like that. So, we end up having to swallow lower margins because of it, just because the real ingredients are the most expensive part of any product you're going to buy. The fillers or the chemicals are dirt cheap. even if they're so expensive, you don't put a lot of them, so they end up being so inexpensive within the product. But yeah, yeah,
No, I mean that it makes sense because what you're saying speaks true to I think a lot of people's mindset where it's like, well, I'll pay a premium for something that's good. I'll pay for something that I'm investing in the fact that I'm going to eat this whole bottle of sauce on things and it's not going to affect, you know, me or my stomach or, anything else that's a chain reaction after that. And I think that's very important that you kind of are looking out for your family, but then your family chain links into the community of people that you also serve because there's dozens, if not hundreds of households now in Canada and the U.S. that eat your sauce, eat your condiments, and I think that that's important that you are looking at the bigger picture of things. Um, what was the process of you developing the ketchup just in the first place?
the ketchup is actually sort of was a. I wouldn't say it's an accidental, but it's a. What's a better way of putting it? Sort of, we ended up stumbling into making ketchup because a key ingredient in a lot of barbecue sauces is ketchup. And
Bingo.
so when we were doing, sorry,
I was just saying bingo. Yeah, like
yeah.
you nailed it.
So as we are testing in our kitchen making ketchups, we at first we were buying ketchup, and we're at buying asked for every supplier, and every ketchup had liquid sugar in it. Every ketchup had liquid sugar in it, really high sugar and sodium content. And we're like, well, why is it like that? Let's take a look at this. And as we ramped up to producing the ketchup, so from the test kitchen to actually making our own barbecue sauces, we realized that the only way to get a ketchup without liquid sugar in it and to hit lower numbers on our nutritional table was to make our own ketchup. And so right now, I don't like this is between you and I and your fans here. Um, I don't even think we've updated our nutritional tables because our nutritional tables were done based on a previous ketchup we had used, which is so the nutritionals are actually way better than what's on the label. So we have to update that. I'm going to make a note and send an email off because I think that was supposed to be done, but I don't know if it's done yet. But we'll have to. Anyways, so when we created our own ketchup, we realized we get all the flavor. We could get um, half the sugar and half the salt. And since you're using so much in your barbecue sauce, that means your barbecue sauce has lowered sugar and lowered sodium. So it's like a win-win through the secondary lines of product. So yeah, that's how we ended up getting into there. And but little did we know that ketchup was such a divisive and anger-inducing and insane condiment.
People love their ketchup and they'll defend the bigger companies to the core, not knowing that they're just like drinking cups of, just sugar and oil and
Uh, we ran we have an Instagram post about the ketchup, and just people are like vicious. Some people are vicious. We compare us to Heinz, just like talking about the kind of ingredients we do, and people are just viciously protecting Heinz. And I said to these people, like, dude, like, do you think that our small little pokey Canadian company is going to have any impact on the bottom line of Heinz? Like, do you think Heinz needs your protection? You're going to the biggest, baddest bully in the schoolyard, and you are standing up to protect him from like the little runty kid that's like, that's this big. It doesn't make any sense. So, but yeah, like you said, it's just people love their ketchup and they get jealous over their ketchup. But I feel like it's almost like stepping into the Android versus iOS war. People are like guttural reactions to it.
no, absolutely. I used to work at a burger joint that they made like a really basic ketchup tomato puree, but then to make it into a more ketchup consistency, they would take balsamic reduction and put it in there and then mix it. And because of the sugars in that and then the reduction, just kind of made it kind of a tangier, deeper, more interesting ketchup. And yeah, it was always wild the reactions that people would get, like as if this was going to be like just poisoned ketchup or something. And oh, this doesn't taste like Heinz. It's like, well, it's not supposed to be. We're making ketchup. We're not just giving you a bottle of crap and telling you to figure it out. So, but I think that again, that's what is unique about you guys. That's what sets you guys apart from everything. So, did you guys have to develop your own techniques and like organic traditions and ways of making these with machines, or was everything pretty cohesive with bigger? Like, I guess what I'm saying from an industrial standpoint, you guys didn't have to take any extra steps because you're not using chemicals or ingredients like that.
Well, you have to be a lot more careful. Like
Hmm.
like I was mentioning before, with our vinegar-free hot sauces and sort of like a Breaking Bad bacteria-free environment, we have to be a lot more careful because the products, well, the barbecue sauces and stuff, they tend to be okay. The ketchup as well, but the vinegar-free hot sauces are the fussy ones.
Sure.
We just they can be contaminated fairly easily, so we have to be extremely careful. So we are extremely careful. We control temperatures, like everything is monitored very, very closely to make sure that it hits all of our numbers, and then we know we're safe. But like, to give you an example, we were bottling. I think it was jalapeno original, if my memory serves me, and there was a problem with the filling machine for some reason. It was like giving a little shot before starting, and like it ended up whipping air into the bottles. So it was giving like a little bit of a delay, a shot, a little delay, and then filling the rest of the bottle. And that little, and let's say we ran, I forget, I think we ran like maybe 1,000 bottles of it. But that little shot of air contaminated all, because there's that bacteria in the air, right? That little shot of air did some kind of like weird reaction. It must have been bacteria, but it just didn't work. And we ended up, I tossed all of them because I just wasn't sure. Some of them went bad. We had two, three, four, like at the factory, they were just, it turned right away. And I'm just like, this isn't good. So we ended up, and that hurts. Like, you toss 1,000 bottles, you're like, shit.
Yeah, right. No, I totally understand that. And yeah, thank you for sharing that. And so as far as sourcing your ingredients, where do you guys get your ingredients? Is has it been like this journey of importance to, sustainability, or has it just been kind of like you've always had the connections?
So I would say like a 90-95% of our stuff is either from Canada and the US. We try to really, I mean, besides spices that are grown in like whatever overseas, we try to source 90 to 95% of everything from either Canada or the US. The exceptions being in winter. In winter, sometimes you have to go a little further because fresh peppers don't necessarily. But I think there's still some fresh peppers coming out of Texas or Georgia. I think in the winter. Sorry, but obviously Quebec and Canada is off limits. And then the only exception is the glass, the packaging. We used to source everything pre-pandemic from Canada and the US, but post-pandemic, we found that like all of our suppliers are buying from China now. I don't know what happened to the local guys. I don't know if the local guys are locked in with contracts with the large manufacturers, so they don't have any. I'm trying to figure it out because we just haven't seen a supply come back of local Canadian like glass or plastic bottles. But besides that, almost everything we try our best to source from Canada and the US. Like, to keep it as local as possible.
No, I love that. So when developing these flavors, how has that been a challenge for you to balance everything as far as like the spices, or like with the sauce, the barbecue sauces, the sweetness or smoky level, things like that nature?
Well, there's like, I would say there's like three phases. The first phase would be you create the recipe and you use your palate to try to sort of like, well, sorry, phase one is like the idea. What are you aiming to achieve? And then you go and you create that idea to see what it tastes like. Phase two is we test it. Like you actually have a barbecue and you test like 5 different versions of, let's say, the Kansas barbecue sauce to see which one is the best, is the most Kansas, is the most like matching up to your idea that you had initially. And then the last phase, which I personally do just because, is I make batches of, let's say we're down to 2 or 3 sauces that I can't decide between, or 2 different batches of the same sauce. Then I just give sample vials to everybody that I know, like my buddies and stuff and my friends, and which one do you
Nice.
like best? Which one do you like best? And usually people are sort of the same mind when it comes to which one they prefer. Sometimes they're all over the place, but usually people have one that they gravitate towards.
No, that's cool because I like that you're using like kind of your friends and family and other people as a local, um, you know, market
Study group.
base. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, that's great because they can give you feedback on products that customers will receive later on. And I'm sure now down the line, when people make the connection or people that have gotten to know you as the Sinai, gourmet guy, is that they're like, oh, wow, like this is a really unique experience. I'm sure a lot of people have shared cool stories with you of things that they've put your sauces and condiments on.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no end to the creativity that people had. Like somebody emailed me the other day, emailed the company, I should say, but told me that they were using the Tropicante as a salad dressing to make like a tropical type salad. Like I'd never even occurred to me, and it was delicious. I had another chef came to me, and he was using the blueberry pie hot sauce on, what do they call those? A lava cake, like
Oh,
a
sure.
chocolate lava
Wow.
cake. Yeah, and that sounds good to me. So yeah, there's some people have some very creative ways. One of my friends is a big fan of using, especially our South Carolina barbecue sauce, and he puts it in the burger meat before barbecuing a burger. So you get a little bit of that tangy, mustardy taste into the burger patty itself. And then he cooks it like just medium well. And then it keeps your meat nice and juicy and tender because you got an extra sort of like um, liquid in there. Then you get that nice mustardy flavor inside, and that one has Dijon mustard seeds inside, so it's like a win-win. So people are all
Hmm.
kinds of creative ideas.
And do you guys have any direct partnerships with any chefs or restaurants?
We have some that we work with. We have a couple caterers that we work with that do beautiful spreads, or a couple oyster people that we work with. The restaurants we do have, like do product development for them with them, like hand in hand. But that stuff, people like, we end up in the kitchen, so nobody would ever know. Uh, where like I used to, I like to say sometimes that, like a chef has different tools, and a sharp knife is a tool that helps him make his job a little bit easier. And like Sinai Gourmet is another one of the tools that some of the chefs have come to rely on, because they can come to us with whatever sauce idea, and we'll try to explore it with them, and then we'll try to make samples out, shoot it out to them, and see how they like it, and then we'll work together. And sometimes with some of the larger chains, it ends up being a really cool product that we put out for them.
Right, because I remember earlier you did mention that the steakhouse now carries some of your sauces that you can put on a ribeye or things like that nature and kind of live that experience. But with like business strategy and growth, I mean, do you guys have a target audience or is it kind of just everybody because everybody eats sauce, everybody needs condiments?
Well, we're really special on that, like you said before, that person that's willing to pay a premium for something a little bit healthier and clean ingredient, because we're never going to be able to compete with with the customer that buys craft barbecue sauces at Walmart at 99 cents. Like that's just that. Like I just can't. That's not our business model. That's not who we're going after, and we can't. I'll never be able to hit that price, or nor would I want to. But besides
No.
that, um, but yeah. So we have it's a person that cares about what they eat. They care about what they put in their body. They like they just like basically a store bought but home cooked feel to a sauce, and it's willing to pay a little bit extra. You have to be willing to pay a little bit extra
No,
because
and yeah, I totally hear you, and I like that you guys keep both feet planted on the ground in the sense that handling competition really is pretty simple because you're very modest as well as you let the ingredients and the condiments and the sauces speak for themselves, which it seems like they're doing just fine.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, like put a good product out there, and our repeat customer business is through the roof. I mean, we just have a big loyal customer base, and when we come out with a new product, like the first batches of all of our new products is sold out pretty quickly because all of our current customers will be, hey, I'm willing to try it out, and they order it, and yeah, so you deliver high value, you take care. I'm a little OCD, so I think that's a perfect attribute to have in the food industry. But so we take like an extra attention, make sure, and everything has to be on point. And if things don't work out the way we liked with a product, it happens sometimes. Like we have a product that I personally love, which is poblano-based hot sauces, but I think they're delicious. They're just not really hot. Poblano peppers are really flavorful though, and it just doesn't have much success in the market because there's not much interest in a poblano. Like it's basically we call it the joke is it's an unhot hot sauce because it's got almost no heat. It's a beautiful product, but there's just not enough people out there that are interested in paying a premium for a hot sauce with no heat in it.
Right. No, I can kind of relate to that. Working where I work at Bonfire Burritos here in Golden, Colorado, because we make our own Anaheim roasted green chili. And when people ask me, "Are Anaheim's hot?" I'm like, "No, they're like a poblano or a green pepper. They're very mild." And they're like, "So is it spicy?" And you're like I thought I just explained. All right, so it's not. And so it's cool though. I mean, uh you got everybody who likes everything from mild and medium and in between. So I think that they'll eventually find a place because I agree with you. They're probably really delicious, but just hard to find homes exactly for them. But I'll tell you what, I'll be stocking my pantry up with plenty of Sinai because I can't wait to just put your different hot sauces and condiments on everything that I cook in the kitchen.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that a lot.
Of course. So like the future for you guys, I mean, are there any new products or flavors that you guys are currently developing that you can talk about?
Well, the only thing I can say is we have a sauce that we're just launched on the website. It's sort of like a pre-launch to be more accurate. It's a Thai style. Oh, that's a tongue twister. Thai
Oh, I get it.
style
Yeah.
hot sauce,
Sure.
which is like it's really got. I like products as well that like bring you back to some memories. Anyways, when you taste it, it kind of reminds me of those little packs that used to come with like Asian food. You bought like and you used to tear them up and you get like a little like 5 ml of sauce. It kind of has like notes and memories of that in it, which I find very fun. Um, yeah, so that one is it's not like the label's not finalized yet, so we're just kind of pre-selling it for people to have fun with it. But yeah, that's one, and then we have a couple other projects, but stuff I can't talk about yet.
No, perfect. I will say no more. So as far as like long-term goals for you guys or just expansion on your products, is that all just kind of set up for the future and ready to go?
Yeah, we're just we're constantly looking to improve things on the manufacturing side, expands our capacity on the manufacturing side, and then get out there and we're trying to service a lot more online now because I find a lot like just people love shopping online. So trying to figure out how to do it as cost effectively as possible. It's just sometimes I have to be honest, shipping glass is just a pain in the butt. It's expensive. It's it breaks easily. But yeah, and then we're working with our restaurant customers to grow that. And retail is sort of something that we do a little bit here and there. We do. My personal preference is the mom and pop shops, so that's sort of been our focus as opposed to the big chains. But yeah,
Awesome. So the last thing I'll ask you is what has been the most rewarding part of your journey as the founder of a gourmet sauce company?
oof. Being an entrepreneur is an emotional roller coaster. Like there's no way around it. It is the highs and lows, highs and lows, highs and lows. It is not for the faint of heart. And it is not for people that don't like everything changing drastically on the turn of a dime. But I think the thing I like the most is that we have, or the most rewarding thing is that we just genuinely have really good, amazing products made by a fantastic team of people who really care and who love what they do. And like in that sense, I'm just blessed. Like that's just a beautiful thing to be able to work with great people and sell a great product to customers who care about what they put in their body. And it's just like maybe it's a micro niche in the world of condiments, but it's a nice place to be and to get people's appreciation and people like you who enjoy what we do and come back to us and let us know that they enjoy what we do. That's just like that part is really rewarding. Yeah.
No, it's a beautiful sentiment. I think that that sums up a lot for the listeners. I think that that is a good way to just show people what you guys are about. I think our conversation has also been a part of that as well. And I thank you for that. I thank you for joining me today and just allowing me to explore this journey with you. And I can't wait for more conversations and more interactions and energy exchanges in the future.
Well, you're a great host, so I'd be happy to do it again.
Oh, I can't wait to have another episode with you and just continue this friendship from across the world.
Sounds good, man.
But absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today, Laurence, and everybody in listening today. Thank you for joining us as well. And remember, folks, keep your plates clean and your hearts full. Thank you for joining me today on our flavorful journey here at Clean Plates. If you enjoyed our exploration into the world of food and the stories behind our eating habits, be sure to subscribe where you get your podcasts. And don't forget to share your own food stories on my personal page at Brian Waterleaf or the Clean Plates podcast page on Instagram. And remember, every plate has a story and we are here to discover them together. So stay curious, keep exploring, and continue to nurture your relationship with food. I'm Brian Romaine, and until next time, keep your plates clean and your hearts